came to North Toronto, I actually was an out-of-district student. I lived, well, my parents still do, live at Finch and Bayview, and so my school was supposed to be Earl Hague, but my parents had heard so much about North Toronto that they made it a point to line up and get me into the school. So when I came here, I knew nobody. The one good thing for me is, although I didn't have a lot of focus in high school, I was a bit of a party animal and I didn't really study. So I have a very different career path than Allison, because she knew very early on she wanted to be a journalist, and for me, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So when I came to North Toronto, the one good thing for me is I had athletic skills. So I made it into the Girls Athletic Association, and that's how I first met Allison. I was a grade 9 GAE rep, she was our president, and of course here is this wonderful example of somebody who is perfect in my eyes in every sense of the word. And so I had somebody to look up to, but once again, still in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to be. I was fortunate enough that my coaches at North Toronto helped keep me focused, at least. Otherwise, I think I would have gotten into some serious trouble of not being able to keep my grades up. I was fortunate enough to have, I still remember them to this day, and I just saw them last year when I came to the 100th anniversary. So Mrs. Jancic, Mr. Doyle, Mr. Gibson, I know they're retired now, but they played a crucial role in keeping me focused, and also later on giving me some opportunities to help me figure out what I wanted to do with my life after I graduated. So once I graduated from high school, barely, I got into University of Toronto, barely, and I had the ability to somehow still get through university, but it was in my last year of university where I just kind of woke up one day and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm graduating and I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea what I want to do, because I just basically took general topics like history, political science, but I had no idea where this was going to go. And so I thought, what should I do? What should I do? So I kind of just sat down and made a list, and 3 subjects kind of came up. One of them was teaching, one of them was advertising, and one of them was journalism. So I thought, well, how do I know what I'm good at? What are my strengths and weaknesses? Am I going to be a good teacher? Would I be good in advertising? These were a lot of the questions that went through my mind. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I need to volunteer, I need to intern, I need to figure this out. And so with teaching, I actually called Mrs. Jancic, and is she still here? No, right? She's retired? Okay. So she was my old volleyball coach here at North Toronto, and I said, listen, can I come and help you out with the volleyball team? I need to know if I'm good with kids. I need to know if this is something I'm going to enjoy, if I'm actually good at it. All those kinds of questions ran through my mind. So she absolutely agreed to have me come in. So I actually volunteered and helped out with the volleyball team at that time, just to get a feel of whether or not this was for me. And I absolutely loved it. I thought, you know what, I could see myself being a teacher. You know, I have the ability to communicate with the kids in a way that they understand. I love hanging out with them. So that was the thought. And then for advertising, I knew nobody in the industry actually. So I just kind of did a cold call to a few advertising agencies. And this was also a really interesting moment for me, because I would bring in my resume and I said, look, I'm not looking for a job at this moment. I just want to intern, I want to volunteer, I want to shadow, I just want to get an idea if this is something that I'd like to do. And they looked at my resume, and you know, there was some impressive things in there because of my athletic accomplishments, things like that, and then I was at University of Toronto. But the one thing that the gentleman said to me right away is, oh, you went to North Toronto? And I said, yes, I'm a North Toronto graduate. And right away, he was so impressed by that. He didn't care about, you know, the fact that I was just about to graduate from U of T. He totally recognized North Toronto as a high-profile high school and was really impressed to see that on my resume. And so this is a gentleman who knew nothing about me. He said, sure, why don't you come and shadow with us for a week to get an idea of whether or not this is something you'd like to do. So sure enough, with his agency, I went in and I got to work on a few projects. I did whatever they needed help with, and I got that experience and said, okay, this is another thing. I think I'd be good at this too. I kind of like this. And then lastly, it was journalism, and I was fortunate enough to have, my mom had a friend whose son was an accomplished anchor. He's no longer in the business, but he used to be an anchor with City TV, Ben Chin. And he was working on the Bernardo trial at the time, which was such a huge, huge story to be a part of as a reporter. And so he allowed me to shadow him during the trial, especially just the last portion of it, because this trial had dragged on for a long time. But to that point when the verdict came down, I was down there at the university courthouse. All the media was there, you see all the satellite trucks, and you got to see how the media operated and how they gathered their story, what their deadlines were like, how much information they had to know, all these kinds of things. And I got to follow him for a week, and I loved him. And I knew right away, this is it. Out of the three, I loved this. And so from that point on, I applied to Humber College, got in, and the rest is sort of history in the sense that I got into the business almost right after Humber, and I've been in it for 17 years now. And it's been mostly local news, which has been fantastic. I love it. There have been ups and downs, obviously. With any job, you're going to realize that there are ups and downs. And also because the industry has changed so much, just even the last 5 years, with social media taking off, you have citizen journalists now also playing a role in what we call journalism. So it's been really interesting, and you have to understand, I started journalism at a time when there was no internet. I don't even remember how I gathered stories at that time, to be honest with you, because now I look at, today and how we gather information and how everything is instant. But back in the day when I first started, there was no internet. So it's just been this incredible ride, and I wouldn't give anything up for it. I followed something that I really wanted to do. I knew this was it because I had volunteered in each of the three fields that I had expressed interest in. But the one thing that always comes back to me is just my days in North Toronto, because with the help of social media, I've been able to reconnect with so many people that I went to school with. And you find that they're all in different fields, and that has helped me immensely just as a friend to see what other people are doing with their lives, but also if I ever needed to call upon somebody who is, a stylist, a doctor. I have another friend of mine, Kathy Porter. She's currently a writer with the Toronto Star, and she's from my graduating year. We actually are very close. And so to see all these people reconnect with them via social media has been incredible and helpful for me, because if I needed to do an interview with somebody in that field, or if they have connections, all those kinds of things, it all plays a role. And I didn't think when I was in high school I would come back years later to say, wow, I was really proud to be a part of this school. And I guess that's why last year, when it was the 100th anniversary, I absolutely had to come back. One, I wanted to see the new school because I didn't know what it looked like. And two, I wanted to catch up with some of my coaches and teachers who really played a significant role in keeping me on track. Because honestly, if I look back on those days, I think maybe if they weren't there, my path would have been very different from what I have today. And it's even touched me so much to come to North Toronto that right now I have a 4-year-old son. We don't live in this district, but there'll come a point when we have to start looking at the high school that he's going to go to. And my husband and I are already discussing whether or not we should eventually try to see if we can move into the area. Even if we can't afford it, we'll go into an apartment or condo, just because we so very much would love our son to attend North Toronto and be a North Toronto graduate as well. So that's how much it's touched me in my life. And then in terms of my career path, the one thing that has really got me through the ups and downs, because there have been many ups, but of course there have been many downs as well, because I think that's with any job, but with journalism especially, and especially being a woman, it's pretty hard to be in the business sometimes. And I got into the business at a time when the industry was growing. There were TV stations popping up everywhere, the 8 channels, they were all coming up at that time, so there was lots of opportunity. But of course, it was extremely competitive. And the one thing that got me through it was I just worked hard. It's as simple as that. There was no secret formula. I literally worked hard. And when I mean by working hard, my first job was in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. I'm a Toronto girl. I grew up in Toronto. I partied in Toronto. I hung out in Toronto. So to go to Yorkton, Saskatchewan, where, truth be told, There were no Asian families there except for, honestly, one family that was running the Chinese restaurant. It's true. When I arrived, everyone thought I was visiting them, not realizing that I'm actually a reporter at the local station, right? So it was just such a wake-up call, because I thought, wow, you know, this is a small little town. It's Yorkton, Saskatchewan. It's not even Regina or Saskatoon. I would have taken Regina in a heartbeat. But it was minus 40-degree weather. I had to pick up a camera, which I never knew how to shoot. I had to learn how to edit. I had to go out in the middle of nowhere in minus 40-degree weather, shoot a story, come back, edit it, write it. And on my days off, all I did was put together demo tapes and send them out. And I would send out like 30 demo tapes every month, and I'd get 30 rejections. And then I said, that's okay. I gather up another month's worth of stories, I put out 30 demo tapes, send it out, and get 30 rejections again. And that went on for about 10 months, until finally one news director in Hamilton at CHCH said, okay, we're gonna give you a shot. And I said, I really wanted to know why he wanted to give me a shot, because after 10 months of receiving rejection after rejection after rejection, I wanted to know what got me that big break. And he said, look, you're not the greatest reporter we've seen, okay, and that's fine. And he goes, and we need to work a little bit on your appearance, because I wasn't so polished. And I said, okay. He goes, but what I love about you is that you didn't give up, and every time you sent me a demo tape, you called me and you asked me, okay, what is it that you didn't like about the demo tape? And every point that that news director gave, and they were all negative points, but I took it as positive criticism. He would give me all these points. I turned around those points and applied it to the next story. And so he said, I saw real growth in every story, because every point that I gave you, you applied it to that story. And so he said, I could tell right away that you're a quick learner, you're a fast study, and you're gonna get there. And so I want to work with you and improve upon those skills that you just naturally have. And so he gave me my big break. And ultimately, from there, it allowed me to come into the #1 market in Canada, which is Toronto. And so at the end of the day, it really has just been hard work, sweat and tears, and of course, the love of family and friends that kind of kept me singing throughout the whole experience. And that's it.